At the end of October in 2025, Dom Mariani released his second solo album called Apple of Life. With a pedigree that includes 80s garage rock band The Stems and DM3 in the 90s, and his latest touring outfit Datura 4 that blasts out some full-tilt boogie blues and psych rock, Dom Mariani has never been far from the spotlight. And it's my pleasure to welcome Dom to The Breakdown to talk about his latest solo record called Apple of Life. G'day, Dom.
G'day, Costa.
How does it feel to have another record out?
It feels great. It's a relief as well. It took a while to do. It's about 3.5 years worth of, sort of time. I guess not. It took 3.5 years of recording, but it was over a 3.5 year period to actually get the thing finally finished. I'd started it, and then other things came in the way, like touring and other bands that I'm with, and just had to put it on the back burner for a while, but eventually got there, and I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out.
So was it mostly a solo pursuit?
Yeah, look, I had friends help me out. These were songs basically that I collected over a period of time. Some go back about 15 years that just didn't fit into what I'm presently doing with the current band I'm with. They were of a style, I guess, more in a sort of pop rock vein, stuff I'd been doing, for a long time with the Stems and Someloves and DM3 and stuff. And I came to a point with that thing that I wanted to do other things, other music. So I pursued an instrumental project called the Majestic Kelp for a few years, and then now I'm with a band called the Datura 4, which is more of a heavy kind of psych rock thing, boogie blues influences, a bit all over the place. But I did have these songs that I'd written, and they didn't quite fit in that format. I couldn't push those songs to the band. So I thought, well, these songs will be on a solo album one day, and that's how Apple of Life came about, yeah.
And the band? Who's with you now?
I've got Joe Grech on bass, who plays in Datura 4, and he also did a fair bit of the engineering of the recording. Tony Taliano, who was in DM3 with me. He did a little bit of recording as well as goes to his home studio, so he's involved. He's playing bass. And on drums I have a guy by the name of Jamie Turner, who's in a local band here called the High Learys. Yeah, so that's the live band I'm going out with.
Do you feel it's kind of a privilege to be still making music, 40 years from when you started?
Yeah, I guess so. I've had a little bit of success with it, and it's kept me sort of in the industry. I love doing it. I was always going to do it anyway at whatever level. I have a day job these days which pays the bills, so I don't really rely on the music to pay the bills. So,
Well, it's a different story now, isn't it, than when it was, when people actually bought CDs and albums and stuff?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There was a time when, you could, do okay and sort of make a living out of it, but these days, you've got to be pretty lucky to be in that kind of boat.
You're listening to The Breakdown with Costa Zouliou, and I'm talking to Dom Mariani, who's just released his second solo album called Apple of Life. And Dom, it really busts out of the gate with the track Breakaway. Tell us about that one.
Well, that's a song that I guess came about by just sort of doodling as I normally do in the morning, just, pick up the guitar and, see what comes. Sometimes a riff, sometimes a little melody or some words. And as I kind of kept writing the tune, I just felt like it had to be this kind of Phil Spector style production. I really went sort of bells and whistles on that one. I had the female backing vocals and the big bombastic drum intro. It's quite a dramatic song, and it just suited the whole theme of that tune. In a way, it's a bit of a personal, introspective kind of song lyrically, in that it's you don't take it literally. It sort of reflects a lot of things, just wanting to break away from whatever you're doing.
Breaking Point is the latest single. How did that one come about?
I actually wrote the lyrics on a subway train when I was in New York, believe it or not. That was during the first solo album, so that song goes way back. Yeah, just these lyrics sort of started coming. I had a kind of vibe or melody in my head and just started jotting it down, and then eventually sort of put a song to the thing. And a song that kind of has changed a fair bit since when I first wrote it. Like the introduction of that song, for example, with the sort of heavy bass, and then the Moog synthesizer that comes in during the choruses, were kind of things that came pretty much towards the end when we were sort of listening to it going, the song needs something else. What is it? And it turned out really well in the end.
I love that lead solo at the end. It just cranks.
Yeah, great. Thanks.
Is that one of yours? Are you're playing that?
No, I'm not going to take credit for that one. No, that's a guy by the name of Michael Menner, a young bloke who's a terrific guitar player. He did me a favour and came in, and I knew he could do that kind of shreddy solo, so that's what the song needed. And,
it's one of those ones where you wish it didn't end. It just kept going. I'd love to have heard it all the way through. Yeah.
Yeah, like, a couple of takes, he was done.
Yeah.
It sort of booked him in for the full session, and then we sat around sort of chatting for the rest of the night,
Fantastic. How different is it touring now than it was back in the 80s when you were, say, with the Stems or later on with the DM3?
Look, these days, the touring that I do, if I'm sort of heading over east or in Europe's different. Obviously, you take a few weeks out to sort of do that kind of thing. But in Australia, it used to be, being from Perth anyway, you'd go across to Sydney or Melbourne to start, and then you'd do the East Coast, then come back down to Adelaide. So that would be over sometimes 3-4 weeks, sometimes 6 weeks. I remember 6-week tours back in the Stems days. I can't believe we did that. These days it's kind of like a weekend thing almost, you kind of go across, do 2 or 3 shows, and then come back to Perth, and then do the same thing to take in most of the capital cities if you can.
You must have a following over in Europe to be going over there next year?
Yeah, I've done okay over there. Mostly sort of Spain, Italy, a little bit of France. I've been up as far as Scandinavia. But yeah, there are sort of pockets in most of the countries there. But I mostly do Spain because that's probably my biggest audience. And Italy's pretty good as well. I've done Greece and, places like that too. So it's been great. I think if I hadn't had that European success in some way, I probably wouldn't be doing it as much as I am doing it today. I wouldn't be recording as much anyway. It
wasn't that long ago that you got back together with the Stems, was it?
Yeah, we're still going. Like we don't play a lot. We might do maybe 1 or 2 tours a year, short tours. I guess since about 2013, we've been sort of doing it regularly, doing some more recording. Band's playing great. We have a great time doing it. So, we'll keep doing it until we've had enough, I guess.
I'm talking to Dom Mariani about his second record, Apple of Life. Now, the first half of the album sounds, to me, it really punches pretty hard, and then there's a few slower songs, a bit of slide guitar in the second half of the record. So how did that all come through? Yeah,
I wanted to, just sort of spread my wings a little bit more, or just widen the palette of the songwriting. And I brought in, a few things like pedal steel. There's a young guy here by the name of Luke Dux, who's a very good player, and he came in and played pedal steel on a few songs, which gave the songs like a totally different flavour. I've always been a fan of that. I guess I love country music, but that sort of crossover country pop where bands and artists in the 60s and 70s, like in Mike Nesmith's and even your sort of Eagles and Flying Burrito Brothers, use those instruments to kind of with rock and roll, and thought a couple of songs needed that touch. So the one song, the blatant song, there's Jangle Land, very much tributes the Byrds, one of my favourite groups, and so that kind of has the pedal steel dueling with a 12-string guitar. They come out well,
Interesting you mentioned Mike Nesmith in there, because I got a real Monkees feel and a bit of an Easy Beats feel from World on Its Head.
Yeah, I love those bands. I love the Monkees growing up. I just loved all the songs. I've been a big fan of melodic music, I suppose, and as well as other things. I like a lot of stuff, but I grew up, listening to the Beatles and the Monkees, Easy Beats, and I didn't really know all their stuff when I was growing up, but when I got older, I kind of delved in and bought some records and got to know the Beatles catalogue and all the sort of offshoot bands from that kind of thing, and then discovered that the Monkees didn't write too many of their own songs, and then found out that these songs belong to other people, like Boyce and Hart, for example, and Neil Diamond and people like that. So, I'm a big music fan, and I love the Monkees, and the easy beats that...
So you've got a new Stems record coming out, mate? Tell us how that's all going.
Yeah, we're working on it now. I'm recording 3 tracks tomorrow, Dave and I. He's a drummer in the Stems, and we'll sort of work towards getting that hopefully finished in time for the tour, which is October. So we have 2 songs that have been released already, 2 singles we released, Falling from the Sky and Deep Freeze. So that's the plan. We're working on some new material. We've got the songs. Not the best situation in that, we all live in different places, like Dave and I live in Perth, and Julian and Ash live in Melbourne. So the way we've been doing it is that we'll record the beds and then send the files across, and then they do their bits and back and forward type thing, and then we mix it here.
Because Ash Naylor is the busiest guitarist in Australia.
He sure is. He's plays with everybody these days.
Does someone like that with that, I mean, you guys have all got loads of experience. Having Ash in the band, how does that change the dynamic?
He gets it. He's into what we're into. He's really into 60s and 70s music. That's his kind of background, and he's a good guitar player and a good singer. So he brings his experience and his talent to the band, which obviously lifts the band live-wise, and when he records, he puts down great stuff. So, I think from the old line-up to what we have now, it's definitely an improvement. The band's different as well. It's a bit more sort of rock these days than I guess 60s as it was back in the day. We were very much sort of this, I guess, 60s retro garage rock. We used to have an organ like
a Hammond? Yeah.
Farfisa, actually.
Oh, okay.
It's sort of cheesy 60s Farfisa stuff, which suited what we were doing. And, if you listen to that stuff, that's kind of what we were trying to recreate. We've had Davey Lane as well. He's been part of the band. We usually have either or, depending on who's available,
He's a pretty busy guitarist as well, isn't he?
Well, yeah. So we haven't had to use Plan C yet, but so far it's worked out that if one's not available, the other one is. So.
Yeah. Who are some of your favourite songwriters who you've listened to and guided you through your years of songwriting?
Obviously, Lennon McCartney, John Fogerty from Creedence Clearwater Revival. Just thought he had the knack for writing these amazing, great rock and roll songs. That sort of had the 50s and 60s and all in there, but he was great.
You look at Cosmo's Factory. You could have played anything off that record, couldn't you?
Yeah.
On the radio, it's just such a good record.
And the singles, I remember buying them, and they got the double A sides. Yeah, there was both songs were great. I love the Barry Gibb, Bee Gees. I think they're great. I mentioned Boyce and Hart before. I think they were fantastic. Neil Young, Bob Dylan. There's so many great songwriters, David Bowie.
Now, tell me, Dom, did you hear, I heard it through the grapevine, from Creedence first or Marvin Gaye? Creedence, yeah. Yeah, me too.
Yeah. And, I remember buying more Creedence Gold. That was an album I bought when I was like 15 or something. I'd only ever heard the short version on the radio, and then bought that record, and it had the really long one, which has the big, long sort of guitar solo, which I loved.
It's brilliant.
Yeah, it's a great version. But, that's very brave to kind of cover songs like that.
And it wouldn't have been long out, would it? I mean, Marvin Gaye's version wouldn't have been long out, before Creedence did it.
Yeah, I always find, that soul music, which I love, those great soul singers and soul hits from that era. I always found that, there's just like a kind of notch above everything else. And if anyone was ever going to do a cover of it, they'd really have to do a good one. And I think Creedence did a great version of that.
Yeah. Have you ever played? Well, you came from a covers band many, many years ago, didn't you? I guess like most musos.
Yeah, look, when my first band were doing covers, and it was 50-50. It was like 50% Creedence Clearwater Revival and 50% Bee Gees, because the two guys in the band were we're talking sort of early Bee Gees, like all
pre-Saturday Night Fever.
Yeah, pre the disco era.
Yeah.
So they were right into that, and these two guys were good harmony singers as well. So I was the sort of token rocker, wearing a flannel shirt, and these guys were sort of into the Bee Gees, which gave me an appreciation for the Bee Gees. So I've got to thank those guys. And we had Beatles as well. We did some Beatles songs. Yeah, that was our repertoire, and we were a little bit daggy really for the time, because we were right in the middle of Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, and Black Sabbath, which I loved those bands too. But we were young guys just coming out of like guitar lessons, and Creedence and Beatles was what our teachers were showing us,
And probably a little bit easier to play than Zeppelin, Sabbath, and Deep Purple.
Yeah, we didn't have the gear to play that loud. So we got there in the end.
Oh, it's exactly what I started listening to as a kid when I'd go over to my cousin's place, and they'd grab me by the ankles and turn me upside down, take me into their room, and play me Zeppelin, Sabbath, and Deep Purple.
Yeah.
And that's how I started. What I started listening to as well.
Big, yeah. We used to have this guy not far from where we lived. We had this radiogram, and this radiogram had lights behind the grill, and depending on how loud the music was or whatever the music was, these lights would go from yellow, orange to red. So we turned the lights off, and they had Whole Lot of Love as a single. We always used to put that on because that would just make this whole thing go berserk. we loved doing that. You put on Mellow Yellow by Donovan, it didn't quite.
It didn't register.
Didn't do the same thing.
Didn't do the same thing. Yeah. Excellent. Oh, good to yarn, mate. Thanks very much for joining us. I've got Dom Mariani here, making his triumphant return with the second solo record called Apple of Life. You can grab it now. Is it up on Bandcamp or something like that, mate? Yeah, it's
available on all platforms, and physical. You can get the vinyl and CD as well. Yeah.
All right, brilliant. Thanks for joining us on The Breakdown.
Thank you, Costa.